The four princes of Cao Tu asked. Vice Emperor Tai, dare say who wants to start the right of succession. Why do you look at him? He shouted. This kind of mindless question. How can you think of that? Let's brainstorm. Your royal family has one hand in building a great army. Under what circumstances can suddenly begin the right of succession? Five Princess Cao delivered quickly spoke up. People in foreign countries, Kier has broken through the national disaster, where the power of the four statues converges, can't solve the problem of being born. After listening to it in my heart, there's finally one less worried. Then he asked again. The cost of using paid search codes. How much do you remember? The three wise princes quickly answered. There are only angels in heaven, can only use the top paid code sword. Use this sword to destroy the enemy. The kingdom will consume the fortunes of the angels. If the starship's air is not enough, they will use their soul, by way of life, and even traces of the existence of the angel. Of course, Lu spent together. From the past to the present, kings who used to carve swords in the upper reaches. If you die in 10 places, there are 9. The rest of us also saw the dead stop. The emperor urged again. Go on. Gao Death continues to speak like the lamp has run out of oil. And very few of them survive 3 months. The scene to nod. No, I took out the magic sword. When this sword appears, he must drink the blood of the king to get it back. My time is running out. I need to choose one of you. Take care of Jiang's son instead. Protect thousands of people. Among you, someone who wants to carry the burden on their shoulders. Can I taste the feeling of sitting on my lap? The princes and princesses are silent, and no one speaks. On one side of the thought. Certainly not. It's not that easy for the Gao family to sit up. When Gao ascended to the throne, to restore the appearance of the 2 dynasties, frequency and Han to prevent future generations, for fear of the usurper, he abandoned martial arts, has passed perpetuity, 9, it can't be reversed. Dynasty, it is also from the time of high prosperity. Sitting on Long Y enjoying the world, it's no longer luck in the world. It's become the longest form of punishment. The most desperate thing is just to sit on that gourd. Paint moat taste beautiful wonderful legs, heterosexual protection. Things worth pursuing in life. It doesn't bring any joy anymore. To this day, I still remember the end of my life. The whole world should be worshipped by the whole world. An emperor who likes to be far away. In the last years of his life, so desperate. Haha, in exchange for any normal person. To see that one scene. Everyone will consider the forbidden place in the palace as a dragon pond. The 4 princes now clasped their hands again. The queen and the 2 CAs are not in the capital. Based on your years of work. Cut out a sword. This will not lead to consequences. Not by waiting for them to come back. Before he finished, he was interrupted by the police. They're better suited for this. You think I don't know why? But how do you know? The current opponent of the great tons to face. My sword is there. Can be solved. If you have to use the second, the third. If I die suddenly there. But there is no long paddle against thousands of miles of Jiang's sun. Do you think that the enemies of the Jews, your family and I oppress you, throughout his life, will rise and come back, to ruin our whole lives? Or not, the 4 princes are sweating. No words spoken, to see that I despise it. Just a little bit of this stuff. That's 7 hopes. The emperor in his heart sighed, even though I knew they couldn't handle it. But even if it's to comfort me, it's not okay. At this moment, a little prince stood up and said, "Let me." The princes and princesses next to him saw him standing. They all looked through with horror. One of them turned and whispered to him, "Girl 6 is crazy. We didn't tell you." The end of the crown. And family then Sao. Why do you still want to jump into that hole of fire? 6 high princes watching you smile. But someone needs to stand out, right? No scenes to rejoice screaming. That's very good, Thukfi. On the contrary, give me a good son. The 6 princes came to the scene and said, Ra, if you become emperor, who can ignore for 3 CA quad CA? 5 billion and little sister to let them go where they want to go. Living the life they want. It's not a prison in the capital. Force them to sit on the meat chair. 04 Prince clasped hands secretly ashamed. So I have to give 6 years of protection. You're such a wasteland. Petite princess jerking corner, dress 5 princess, ask. 6 CA, what do you want to do? Looking at the sun, calmly replied. Of course, but the premise is that you have to sit long enough. If you are short-lived, you'll not protect the CA. Not your billions. The sight of you laughing. This does not require the Holy Spirit. To laugh at. That's interesting. Next, he turned his head to the next eunuch and asked. They often decide when it will be finished. The eunuch immediately clasped his hands and replied, maybe soon. He went to get it. The king of heaven is dead. Then he turned his head and looked at the glass. Before the ritual begins, let me meet a little bit of the so-called inferno. I can't see the shadow. If so, let's have this epiphany. On the side of the city, the cracks in the air are getting bigger and bigger. Hidden can be seen Lin Sun Kao soaring over there. Stern Hoa staring crack, said Ra. How to do it? We can hide the cracks in the sky. Or say, we must find the identity of the Kier Arhat first. The devil quickly answered. 2 things to do at the same time, as long as the gap in the sky remains, is equivalent to opening a hole. Let the world intervene in this world. Before it opens wide enough, let the great men of the world descend. This gap must be destroyed. And the Arhat who arranged it must also be expelled. While they were talking, Chen Shang also ran too. I finally found you. I am a martial artist. There's intelligence to report to you. You and the devil both heard that. It's amazing. Move the scene to the side of the lake. Now the sound is next to him. The sound of the Antarctic foot force from inside transmitted Ra. The 2-lane border crossing has been stopped by me. But we can't hold it for long. You are a little faster. When the tiger heard it, he spoke. I knew in my head I was angry. Clearly these problems. It's because of the disunity of the imperial palace. And it's like God owes you something. But to put this aside, we've clearly fulfilled the prerequisites. For the Advent, those days have not yet come. Topside Kier gap, a body standing in front of the crack. I see the Kier hesitating. Someone else came to ask. Why are you hesitating? Who's looking at the crack? It's Kuan Yin. I heard the person behind me ask. She turned her head back. The human kingdom on the other side of the gap. There are still unused trump cards. We are now, if we cross the border, will be cut by the lawless. The one who came was Universal Sage Bodhisattva. When he heard Kuan Yin's reply, he was astonished. It's not carpentry. The tigress in the tiger's clothing fell 1 step ahead to consume the power of that dynasty, then Sao. Why is the enemy still above the law? Kuan Yin calmly replied, even though Sao is also the leader of our province. Before the miracle of Kai Tao, it's very rare in the big world. It's a world where magic and evil coexist. It is very likely that some powerful mortals will be born. Outside the rules, not 7 defeat banished of carpentry and magic ceremony. Prove to this point, or Sao. He asked again, but if you delay too long, will attract the chief priest of the Kai Dao dynasty. It doesn't really have any disadvantages. Kuan Yin calmly replied that there was no problem. I have received the support of 3 other friends. If the kingdom appears, they will also appear on the side of the city. Tran Hung right now, I'm constantly telling you everything I know. For 2 serious people. Except for the brass monks outside in the morning. There are many people in the city. He was quietly transformed into. So the derivative of the Dharma is a man or a monk. Just a notion of the Arhat. This is a serious question. This type of metabolism is not reversible, or Sao. Tran Hung's eyes could not close. Seriously, that makes my face worse. That's serious. Consider the enemy's concealment. Except for the city, there may be more hiding outside. They want to find and solve them. There exists only the high level of martyrdom. It can be done. But now the earth of this world. Something big is happening. All the people in charge are gone. Kneeling at this moment, he suddenly spoke. Rao is like that. It's all worked out like this. You too seriously hear that? They all looked at him with puzzled eyes. The devil quickly spoke out his own speculation. Before coming to Liao City, I met a god in the lower world. And I've seen this trick since the day I started. If you have been hiding this card until now, I'm afraid I don't have to keep it to myself. It's about preparing for the higher power. Coming to Kir. With both eyes closed, what do you mean? The devil immediately responded to the world by keeping an eye on it. To this world. It's because there are martyrs in this world. That martyrdom is basically 7. When the martyr's birth is vacant. But under the circumstances, mostly, the rest of the world is intact. The speed of the evil gods taking over this world is limited. It's hard for them to punish those who cheat life and death, like the fairies, in our martyrdom. Then the Buddha descended based on this trick. It is almost equivalent to, there are countless opportunities to return. In this way, the battle between God and God will be invincible. At the same time, they're coming. It will also attract the attention of the locals. Help the evil gods through the blockade of the fairies. And follow that down. Then Liao City. It will be a battle between them and the gods. And the defeat of this war will become a reference for the world has decided to spread this technique widely and launch a counterattack or not. Above the crack, Huayan Hin now looked at Kuan Yin said. It turns out that behind the mission that the 2 masters entrusted, there's such a layer of meaning. Take the strength of the enemy to make up for his weaknesses. If this trick is really possible, then our state of war, with the chaotic world of Kir, it's probably going to be completely reversed. Kuan Yin's sharp eyes respond with condition. The enemy doesn't do what we do. At the same time, below the surface of Pluto, there's only one pile of rubble left. In the electric chair sat a man in a yellow vest. This is the former Japanese master, a false god. He has the title of the king, named He's Thap. After a moment of thought, he suddenly took down a quill. Next, quickly open the book of life and death on the table. Definitely a marker down and cross out the names. Move the scene to the European side. After the processing is finished, the trader once again asked the crowd. Next will be AI. The pagan saw his actions. It is silent for a while. The preacher is a little uncomfortable right now. This kid is so arrogant. Followers of Nin's special hole, the audience also spoke up. But he's got the nerve to be arrogant, Obama's followers. Slapping Greek head authority quickly gave an opinion. Fake newspapers have been defeated. We're up one by one. I'm afraid that's a little too much. Or go upright. Now, there's another sound coming from behind. Who allowed you to do it? He's mine. When I heard this sound, I was terrified. Turn your head. I saw the fake reporter who was stabbed to death. It's alive again now. He stared at the counter flag and said, "Rah. This time, I won't be trapped by you anymore, boy." At the same time, the sky above the city. Viet Trach onions are still sitting on the back of the falcon. Look at the garden below. He's a little nervous right now. It's not too quiet. After thinking for a moment, he directed the falcon. "Friend, who is waiting for me here, let me get out of the car." Then, he immediately pressed the decision to execute the 5 circulations. Nobody where. Rapidly using extreme speed to become nothing. Then he grabbed the umbrella. That counterattack brought Cho down. Where he chose. That's the hole that Ra jumped into. It's good to jump inside. The dog immediately turned to look around. After a while, he's just like the amazing anarchist exclaimed. No one should. When I was up there, I didn't even see him leave this house. Why is there no one inside? At the same time, underground. The counterattack is still terrifying. Only the burning man shouted. There's no way a message is delivered. Why can you still live? The old man replied casually, "This, of course, is by the grace of God." He said he was using extreme speed. Suddenly, he appeared behind his back. Horrified, he turned his head and looked back. Fortunately, you can still react. The enemy slashed him on the shoulder. And the fake news didn't continue. Just stand there and look at it. Why is your speed slowing down? It's because the inside is wavering. Is it because of the resurrection? It's good to know how to resurrect. It's just going to kill you again. It's no big deal. Say it like that. But in your heart right now, are also constantly reassuring themselves. Calm down, go to the counterattack. Suppose that the enemy held a trick of revival. Analog 7 cum shots par. You are the one who practices the 7 points of destiny. It's not as obvious as SAO. The flaw of this great school. In the time of the 7 gods, the fake press didn't miss the opportunity. Again, rush to attack. When he comes in front of you, then the new horror about 2 eyes. Keep your head up. You're not slow to react. Immediately splits to one side. To avoid a fatal blow, the enemy's move just passed you by. It caused a small injury. Despite 7 defeats, he still laughed loudly. Haha, of course you are hesitating. You're starting to get scared, the devil shouted angrily. Afraid of your mother. Then he disappeared where he came to attack. The two then again plunged into a fierce battle. The people at the bottom were terrified. Aesthetic. There's no denying our personal power. Really far behind this teenager. If not for the gift of immortality. By the king. The situation may have turned into, let's go round and kill this boy together. And we're going to have to pay 3 or 4 people. To win in a miserable way. Fake newspapers have just fended off the attack of complaining. Laughing furiously poking. That's all there is to it, something precious for 1,000 years. What was born to fight for nothing? The prophet highly appreciates you. You and your blood in front of you. The grace of God. It's basically not worth mentioning. The reaction on the forehead, the blue tendon, is now beginning to rise. You immediately went into a state of hell. I will not allow you to insult my family. Just turn body. Put your hand out in front of you and hold one. The military parade was immediately launched. Weapons from 4 or 8 directions appeared. Stabbed towards the fake newspaper. The prophet saw that. The face also dropped. The rabbi spoke again. No, that kid is so strong. The old woman next to him also spoke. The intelligence of the false refuge is problematic. The 4 elements of the great attack are not at the same level. Degrees with wild calamities that we've encountered before. It seems like he was working with the queen to inflict heavy damage to the 4 statues of Chu Duke. There's definitely something hidden. Eng Theo, counterattack using the power of the seeds of hell ejected. Fake news has absolutely no chance to strike back. Immediately pierced by 10,000 swords, Tim died again. Key fans are not having fun right now. The fire is very unpleasant. Fuck 2. The Udo Kai Kai card and the 100 soldiers have been exposed. I want to slowly explore. Then kill them all. Before they realize it, the distance between the enemy and himself now can only rely on one attack. Quickly killed a few more people. Before the Western name had the standard ability. Here space action. After thinking, jumped down from above. When the Lord saw that, he immediately shouted. Be careful, he wants to be serious. He said his skull was cut in half. Finish this guy. I didn't hesitate to come up with the next one. The panicked people kept screaming. One person quickly, you can't stop him. His speed is so fast we can't stop him. Let's find out the location of the boy. The audience also fell down. The young man has taken the counter flag down here on one side. Quickly open up space tear. The prophet quickly came to the side of the crack. Fan Kai is killing. When you see that, immediately stop looking. The enemy wants to move in. You use the fastest speed. Want to run SAO. The prophet comes in and looks at you. We will meet again with the Lord of Heaven. Stay healthy. Fan Kai, screaming, he charged a powerful sword into the tear. But still not in time, the enemy successfully left. Watch the cracks close. Gritted his teeth and said Ra. The problem is to let the leader escape. But at least some of the samples are still there. The power of these Westerners is so diabolical. Need to be associated with the circadian item. God's will to remove them. Before they do something. At the same time, the dog is hiding inside the house. Then suddenly, I saw 2 prophets from inside. From within the crack. The 2 of them didn't find out. He turned around and looked at the prophet and asked the prophet, can you contact the king now? Here teenager's speed and killing ability. It's not something that we can handle now. I want to recover the bodies of the fake journalists. I'm afraid it's necessary. He had not finished speaking, and the prophet replied with a smile. Such an event arises. The king is in power. Control the life and death of this world. He will surely find out. For the desecration of that Prince of Heaven. He will definitely respond. Move the scene down to Pluto's power. Beneath the underworld. The king just crossed out the name of the fake newspaper. Help him revive. Then this time, then there are other names. Of the pagans. Move the scene to the Liao city. After listening to the analysis, Tran Hung said, this is an urgent task right now. Is to give priority to dealing with the Arhat and derivative of his Dharma. On his knees, he asked AI to deal with it. Seriously, immediately let me go. in the heart of the Hoa is currently raging violently. This has to be resolved quickly. It is impossible for your majesty to know. If not, that day I will use the sword. During the ups and downs of the water, Ren's situation is like this. You can't change the king. Tran Hung is also speaking out right now. So we're going to deal with that gap in the sky. The devil heard that and looked at him. Destroying that gap requires pure power. Enough to tear through nothing. Even though you are strong, but not strong enough, you know what I mean. Tran Hung put his hand in his chest. I want to get out something. Yes, but more of it will probably be fine. Very quickly, the horn of his promotion as he was taken out. If you can feel the air up there, it's terrifying. The power of all things is so strong that it overflows. Maybe it's a chameleon. Can be compared with the top-paid code sword. And Engok Billion traditional. This martial artist, eh? Where did you finally get this? He also uses his surprised eyes right now. Look at Tran Hung. Goddess grace is given to all things and wonders. Forming. The power it carries to destroy the Kier gap. On the contrary, it is very expensive. The price of using it must be very expensive. If you use it, you might die. Tran Hung calmly replied, because the people of Hanem Tao die, there is Sao. Seriously hear these words. It's very good to shout right away. I have a friend like you. What a blessing for the people there. This is over, no matter how much you want it to cost. I will also ask your majesty to make it up to you. I'll confirm for the last time. Buddhist derivatives in the city. I will deal with the gap in the sky that you are in charge of. The sword master over there. I will act with you later. It's no problem. Chen Hung turned his head and looked behind him. No problem. I saw the beggar sitting with his head under the Kier tree. He was a little surprised. The beggar also raised his head and looked at him. He quickly silently transmitted the sound to Tran Hung. Don't tell me you know me. Strictly at the side. You see Tran Hung looking at the beggar. I asked why. You know that guy named Hoa too. Tran Hung quickly waved his smiling hand. I don't know him, but I see his face is a little familiar. Maybe we saw his bounty somewhere. The guy next to me is also speaking right now. Just normal. These pagans. If it's not a crime, how can I be in the same place as a psychopath? You believe in Kier. The beggar saw they weren't paying attention to this side anymore. To breathe a sigh of relief. Tran Hung then did not buy time anymore. Quick giving horny of come you. As if attached to my forehead. The horn is like that. It's slowly getting inside his head. After a while, Tran Hung could not stop breathing out. The air in his body also flared furiously. The devil was surprised to see that. The air is too serious. Hoa also spoke up. This gas, it's the same with the demon lord in foreign affairs. But it's completely different. The wind in the back is amazing. Is the horn of encouragement. You can't be wrong. I didn't expect him give a treasure like this to an outsider. But now he has become half human. Half love for Kai has fluff covered. On the back grow 2 wings. On his head was a horn of encouragement. The state of power in front of him is the power of all things. Incomplete lock specification. Human form astronaut densified gas densified. The price to pay is unknown. Body transformation done. Tran Hung looked at the people who said, let's go, seriously. Smooth sailing down the wind, and then Tran Hung quickly disappeared on the spot. A blink of an eye appeared beside the crack in the sky. Look at the crack in front of you. Tran Hung in his heart remembered the words of his encouragement. As, the power in it is a little too great for mortals. So be careful when using it. So first use 3 parts of the force. When he finished, he opened his mouth loudly. The power quickly condensed in front of his mouth. The Lord of Heaven. And the yang frequency. When I feel like this, I'm startled. Condensing force finished. Tran Hung immediately headed straight for the crack and hit it. But his attack. I haven't hit the crack yet. It was stopped by something. Very quickly, the clouds spread. There's a bright light in front of the crack. Tran Hung saw that and was surprised. There's an invisible wall protecting the gap. Above the crack, he also felt the power when he asked. What you just said was calm. Even if it's not the law. It's not that different. Fortunately, we created the hidden wall first. If not the gap that the restoration creates. I can't stand this one. It's amazing. The context of this world. Where we used to be. Two people, pure stick-foot soldiers and Antarctic foot soldiers. He is also looking at his body right now. Standing in front of the Kier crack. The magic bar of the foot soldiers in the heart of aesthetics. He thought for a moment. He turned his head to look at Antarctica. You've waited long enough, haven't you? Antarctic legs with two eyes. I hope you two are a little more patient. Pure stick feet army, color cold face. Look at the opposite person, for the face of heaven. I can wait for you to add a little incense. After a compressed incense, if we still don't see what's called a life-changing point. You must know my temperament by now. On the other side, the tiger looked up at the sky. Why are there so many players out there today? Is it the first red light of this world? The secret is stopping us. It shouldn't be like that. Obviously, the officer received it. Their tacit consent is still there. The officer had time to release the hidden wall. Why not cross the world of Christmas? Is it stable? Wait, maybe he's watching. The supreme law of this dynasty. Then it's clear. Why did Jupiter rub and get out of here so early? Maybe it's something to do with this. There will always be one unlucky person he was told to kill. So of course, it's safer. Leave the scene earlier. These bastards are planning to get on top of me. Above the sky, Tran Hung looked at the wall in front of him thoughtfully. 3 parts of power don't work. So 5 parts. Finished talking, he quickly condensed his power again. At the same time in the world. The terror of God is still that power. It's a few times stronger than before. Your hidden wall is unbearable. Kuan Yin tone face down, did not speak. Move the scene towards the cave, the place where all things dwell. This animal is the fairies of all things. He looked up at the sky and said, that was the breath of the celestial object. In this world, still descendants of his promotion as pure blood Sao. His eyes closed for a moment. Very quickly after a while it left the shelter. Fly out of the water. Its direction is the city. We've got to find out who's using that power. The animals in the forest saw the app fly by. Then you open your mouth. It's Your Majesty's data app, the last day. Also decide officially declared war on the tons. Why do you guys hurry up to the gate? Come with our king. Very fast. Outside the Ganmen gate, there were countless animals. The soldiers on guard immediately shouted when they found out. It's a sign of rebellion. The news soon reached the city. One of the soldiers looked up and shouted. The magic-loving master in foreign affairs wants to break the customs. Chu Tuk with Southern 7-2. Immediately, from the inside out. We can see the outside. The lovers are now close to being sincere. The Lord looked at them with a sigh. How many more times to be beaten? The animals don't have brains like you. I can remember for a long time. Then he turned and ordered the devil. Next to me, come here. Move the scene to the complaining side. You right now is still relentlessly killing pagans. Where did you kill? The king beneath the earth is crossed. Help them get back there. Watch these monsters keep coming back to life. I can't understand the words. How many times have I been killed again? Has not stopped Sao. The king beneath the earth. Still endlessly, underlining, the pen in his hand suddenly broke. After thinking for a moment, he stood up. Follow him up. There is also a door in front. The king quickly entered. Leave the hell. At the same time on the side of the city. Inside the crack, a giant chancellor appears, towards Tran Hung Hit. Tran Hung looked at the player who was fighting to Kier. The corners of the mouth are slightly raised. Behind the wall, invisible, is a hand reaching out from the opposite side Sao. That's interesting. At the same time below the city, is also constantly having the roots of the Lan Ra tree standing on a roof. If you see that, you fall into the trap. His Feng Spring is covering the whole Sao city. Watch out a dance. Have discovered the machinations of the tiger in this city. Then you can't hide anymore. You have to remind the tiger. Think about here. He quickly raised his hand to draw the sound. On the tiger side, quickly appeared another sound transmission. From within, the sound of Qin Tianyang echoing. Recovery. They're investigating your position in the city. If you don't go out and draw fire, our plan will be ruined. When he recovered, he screamed angrily. And where do we have to go? The ceremony also includes you. You guys are really good at calculating. Leave early and leave the problem to me. Based on what we have to carry. The radio on the other side calmly responded. This assignment was soon decided. The only way to help Quan of Avalokitesvara is by your own choice. You can't just because of the difficulty of the advanced mission. To avoid responsibility. Recovery by teeth screaming. It's a little high. She was a little impatient, the cold voice. Let me be clear one last time. If the two saints' plans come to pass. My mistake came. The Red Fairy is not. They are absolutely unfit to shoulder this responsibility. To the end, who must face the anger of the saint. I don't need to talk anymore. The tiger heard the enemy mention the two saints. The face wrinkled. The fourth finger was also burned. This enmity later we magnetic. You son of a bitch. The fourth finger of the general of heaven and earth, very quickly recovered, turned into a giant minister. Appeared in front of people's eyes. Everyone who saw this move was amazed. Looking down at the tiger and screaming. There is no need to find the Lord here. Strictly Hoa, if you see the tiger embodied, you'll not fight. No need to search anymore. Haha, it was unexpected. You're standing out and drawing fire like that. To confirm our earlier speculation. Things are hidden in this city. Must be removed first. Waiting to solve them. The old man will come to collect 10 of you. Recovery just stood there screaming endlessly. If you are a man, come out. To fight a battle. The wind on one side of the observer. The eyes are a little squinted. I haven't seen anyone since. The tiger in my head is full of confusion. It's not. We've come this far. And still no one cares about Sao. Very fast he glanced at Shen Hung in the sky. Okay, you didn't come looking for me. I came looking for you. Jen could also feel the enemy's eyes. Turn your head and look back. I can only see that the back of the lake is constantly turning. School cone. 5 fire wheel moved out, according to his screams. There are fires fired out. Towards Tran Hung Hit. While Chen Hung was stupid. I don't understand what happened. The wind suddenly appeared. Help him stop the fire. Don't distract him. Give it to me. You can deal with that gap. Tran Hung can nod. looking back at the sword-bending station, without contempt to say, only rely on you, but also want to prevent the fake SAO. Just finished talking.